Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, performance enhancement expert, and author, Sean Douglas. I want to welcome all of our listeners who are listening from wherever you are. This show is currently heard in over 30 countries, such as the U.S., Panama, Canada, Australia, France, India. So I really want to thank you for wherever you're listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformations. Here, we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing, and we highlight those transformational moments that have changed our lives, and then we use those to help transform others and elevate their lives all around us. You can listen to us every Wednesday and on the first and third Fridays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's our normal listening hours. However, today and on other days, we do these special pop-up episodes for amazing people that are doing incredible things in the world. So if anything that the guests say resonates with you, because we have these impactful guests, okay? If anything that they say resonates with you, please let me know. You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or on Google Play. You can leave comments. I love reading the comments from all of the listeners. But if anything resonates with you, you can let us know. We love hearing those. So I want you to help me welcome to the show, Rubye Braye. Rubye, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here with you.
I am super pumped to have you. Like, I've been looking forward to having you on the show. This has been a long time coming, and so I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to sharing with your guest.
Yeah, well, if you're ready to go, let's do this.
Well, let's go.
So
fact,
the title of this episode
oh,
is Strategic Leadership with Dr. Rubye Braye. Rubye Braye is an energetic, motivated professional with deep experience advising organizational leaders and senior executives as they worked to achieve their desired goals and results. Rubye is also a highly skilled program manager, researcher, planner, coach, and facilitator with in-depth knowledge of organizational behavior, development, culture, leadership and talent development, and diversity awareness. Her engaging personality and warmth often move people to say, "You are amazing." As a forward-thinking woman with outstanding interpersonal and communication skills honed through extensive international travel and multicultural experiences, Rubye is committed to initiatives that promote health. Rubye starts each day with gratitude for the fact that she is often sought after by private, nonprofit, and government entities for consulting, training, and speaking engagements that address this holistic view of humanity. Rubye Braye honorably served her country for 21 years in the U.S. Army and retired as a lieutenant colonel. Rubye Braye holds a Ph.D. in Applied Management and Decision Sciences from Walden University in Minneapolis, MSBA, Business Administration from Boston University, Boston, Massachusetts, and a bachelor's degree in Sociology and Theater Arts from Hollins University in Roanoke, Virginia. You can connect with Rubye on Facebook.com/Rubye, RUBYE.Braye, BRAY. She's on LinkedIn, and her business is www.WULITURTLE, WoolyTurtle.com. Look it up, www.WULITURTLE.com. So, yeah, so like it says, I mean, you know leadership, like you know organizations.
Yes. For 40 years, I've been working with individuals from little tiny ones to old folks like me. I found that I connect energetically in ways that even animals like dogs and little babies remind me that energy is everything. And to the extent that we are open energetically with clean spirit, it's remarkable what we can do to help transform ourselves and transform the world. And so when I think about being on your program today and those who are listening, I'd like to start from that place.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. So I want to – the first question that I always ask on the show is why, right? So why do you do what you do? What is your why for everything that you have accomplished and everything that you do? What is your why?
I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, in the middle of the civil rights movement. And at that time, there was so much anger and hatred and hostility directed towards people of color. And the response to hatred and anger is more hatred and anger. And so for many years, I carried that. Well, about 15 years ago, it was as though there was a flash that helped me understand that if I would simply forgive and lay down all of the bitterness and anger associated with actions taken towards people of color for decades, and simply embrace love, forgiveness and love, that it would change my life. And it has. And I've been amazed at the doors that have opened, the people that I've met around the world, the opportunities to share, to help others heal, and to just be a blessing in places that I just never imagined I would have an opportunity to share and help and be of service. So my why today is to be a living model for others, where I get to model love, and where people ask, how can that be that you would forgive and lay down all the bitterness and anger and go through the world encouraging people to forgive and love? That's my why. I find that I'm a preacher, and I travel in the community sharing that I don't embrace religion. I am committed to simply 4 things. Love the Creator by whatever name you call the Creator. Love yourself, your best self. Love others unconditionally, and not just those who look like you, sound like you, embrace your same values. And then last, be a good steward of the environment. With that belief, it makes it possible for me to work in organizations and institutions of every type, and to communicate with leaders who are committed to being good for people, good for communities, and good for the environment. That's my why today.
Awesome. I love that. What a great why. Wow.
Thank you.
I'm just so wrapped up in your words, like you're on a mission to show love and gratitude and just you're so focused on just people. You know what I mean? I love it. So who were you before you got to this point? You talked about growing up in the civil rights movement. You retired as a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army. Who were you before you got to the point that you're at right now? Who was Rubye Braye, 10, 15, 20 years ago?
I was a very angry young black woman who was committed to living above the stereotypes that were used to define who black people are in the South, that we could not learn, that we were stupid, that we were lazy, that we were dishonest, and I was determined to be a model for everything that was the opposite of that. And so across time, I found myself distancing myself from people who were white because I was so angry, but God knew better. So what did he do but send a partner who was white, who happened to think that I was just the cat's meow. And that ends love and care helped me be able to see that not all white people carry those views, And in the process, I was able to lay down my own anger and hatred and bitterness. And so today I travel the world helping people who have been mistreated, abused, cared for, just maligned, to be able to live above that so that they can embrace the best in them and be open to helping others find the best in themselves as well.
Awesome. So can you pinpoint a transformational moment that put you on the path to what you're doing now? You know, a lot of people who are, you know, sexual assault advocates were sexually assaulted, and same with rape, and, you know, alcoholics become teachers, you know, to other, you know, alcoholics and, you know, and drug users. And, you know, it seems like once you go through something, you then turn around and help others to go through it, you know, as well. So is there a transformational moment in your life that you can pinpoint that said this was that pivotal moment that changed my mind or made me do what I'm doing now?
Absolutely. When I graduated from college, I went to work in 2 city jails and a state penitentiary. And I found that there were many people, many men and women, who were still very angry. And as a result, they would be released and rescind. They'd go out and find something that motivated them to repeat whatever got them in jail or prison the first time. And I started looking for ways to be able to alter this. Well, years later, when I now live in Wilmington, North Carolina, and in the state, there were corporations that had approached our legislature wanting to build 10 1,000-bed prisons because they could predict that if little children by the 3rd grade did not get passed to the next grade, there was like a 75% chance that they would be incarcerated. If they got passed over a second time, it was like a 95% chance. So they wanted to build the prisons with no cost to the taxpayer, but where the cost was something like $25,000 to $30,000 a year to incarcerate them. At that point, it was like, this is insane. This has got to stop. So I started looking for a program that would help people who are incarcerated to embrace the best in them and be willing to leave and never rescind. And I found a program called Alternatives to Violence, and I started going into prisons using this program. And that was, about 15 years ago. What I found was that the program so helped me change that it was just a gift to go and work with people who are incarcerated. In fact, in the state of California now, the head of corrections has requested that the program be used in all of their 60-plus prisons for men and women, and it has decreased the recidivism rate in the state.
Wow.
Of course, corporations that run prisons and provide clothing and food and such are not thrilled by that because they treat prisons like hotels. You just keep the beds warm, regardless of what the effect on people's lives. So that's what changed, helped me change, and in the process, help model the way and provide resources that could be used by others to transform their lives. And it's not just for people who are incarcerated. It's amazing how AVP works to help all of us. The objective survive. Increase your self-esteem, your communication skills, your cooperation skills, build community and learn how to do it quickly, and then prevent conflict. And if you cannot prevent it, develop the skills to resolve conflict.
That sounds amazing.
Helps me so much. So I want to make a pitch for Alternatives to Violence. Go look for it out on the internet. It will change your life.
That sounds amazing.
It was and is. In fact, they just had the international gathering in Nepal, in Kathmandu, and there were probably 50 or more countries represented. Lots of people from the U.S., of course, who attended. There were people from Rwanda and Kenya where there has been significant civil violence and violence around elections. And it has been wonderful that AVP has been used to help prevent violence in the most recent election.
Wow. All right. So, what do you think the best part about everything that you've done so far? You know, what sticks out to you?
I find that in my career as an Army officer and a college professor and as a social scientist, I was often asked, how did you serve from this place of peace and love in the military? And then how do you use these beliefs and values now in your work? The best part is that there is such consistency by starting each day seeking to be filled with love and light that it has had a dramatic effect on my health. It has had a dramatic effect on my relationship, a dramatic effect on those I interact with professionally, especially the students who will graduate university, complete their PhDs, and serve as entrepreneurs, work in corporate America or for nonprofits, and lead in ways where their values are such that they're committed to people, committed to communities, and committed to the environment as a result of the dialogues that we shared during the program. And I find that it's important to have powerful conversations everywhere. So it doesn't matter whether I'm at the gas station, the grocery store, everywhere. J.Crew, my favorite shopping place. The best part is I get to model the way for others and have these powerful conversations as the occasion presents itself.
Wow. I like that. We don't do that. I mean,
Thank
we're so
you.
fixated on our own lives, right? I mean, we don't think to just, throw a hi to somebody or, just ask people how they're doing. Everybody, like, I noticed, in the past couple of months since I've really, instituted a gratitude program in my life that,
yeah.
and I'll ask people, oh, so you're doing a good life? Like, that's it? Like, hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. Oh, good, not great? Oh, so, good, not great? Like, well, I mean, I'm doing okay. I'm like, oh, so now you're just okay? Like, you're not doing amazing, you're not doing awesome, it's just good? Like, yeah, I'm just doing good. I'm like, a lot of people just want to live a good life. Like, try to live a great life, and I just walk away, like, and that's one of the things that I do now. Like, I don't tell people, like, oh, doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good too. Like if people ask me, like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing amazing today. Like, today is a great day. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I'm upright and breathing, and God's got this.
Absolutely.
And I'm just so blessed, like, I look around, I'm just so blessed, because it could always be worse. You know what I mean? It could always be worse. And so, I just get it, like, I just, I applaud you, for the efforts that you make and living the way that you do. So with that said, what has been one of the hardest moments or what has been the worst part about this transformation?
Well, I'll tell you, I've worked really hard across the years, and when I think about achievements as a lieutenant colonel, having a PhD and teaching at the highest level in the academy in a doctoral program, having served as a GS-15 in government, having traveled overseas to work in countries where I've gotten to know people, I've met and touched thousands of people. The one thing that I learned recently that I wish so much I had understood as a very young person is the importance of being willing to accept failure and to treat failure like something that is just perfectly normal. You learn from it, you move on. I read an article recently about Sarah Blakely, who is one of the youngest billionaires in the country. And she said when she was really young, her father would ask her every day, so tell me what you failed at today. And as a result of hearing that, she felt no shame, no blame, no unwillingness to back away from trying things. It was just perfectly normal to fail. But coupled with failure were lots of successes. And so what that has done is liberate me to be willing to just try all kinds of things. In fact, I'm in a transition right now, and I can hardly wait for the new year to start. I was in Asheville yesterday at Apology, and I found the book that I want to commend to others. It's called My Bucket List. And I found myself just recording the many things that have been in my heart that I've been led to approach, and for whatever reasons have not stepped forward to address them. But I'm looking forward to being willing to embrace these ideas going forward into 2018 and encourage others to embrace ideas, whether they're investments of your time, your money, what you would do in your business. Step out in faith. And it's not possible to succeed if you aren't willing to risk failing. So I just wish that I had understood this much younger, because I suspect that even though I've done a lot, I would have done a whole lot more. I realize that life is like the World Series. There are no playoffs. That you wake up every day with acceptance and gratitude, love and light. You have an opportunity to touch somebody and communicate in a way that will hopefully nourish and uplift that person and strengthen our own inner constitution. And when we do that, we have no idea how this will ripple through a family or through a workplace or through society. There's that old story about people in the workplace who would get upset in the morning and they kick the dog driving to work. They curse out somebody on the road. They get to work and be unkind to somebody in the workplace. I'm realizing now that whatever we carry as belief, if it is unhealthy, it will ripple forward. If it is healthy, like learning to live with failure, we'll encourage others to try things where there's a possibility of great achievement, but also the risk of failure.
Right. Wow. I've never heard that. Like, what did you fail at? Instead of asking, how was your day, or was this? Was it like, what did you fail at? Right. Like, man, I hear this a lot. That, don't be afraid of failure. Like, failure is inevitable. Like, you're just ultimately going to fail. I heard earlier this year people talking about, like, have you cycled yet? Have you cycled? Like, what does that mean? It's like, well, if you made $1 million and then lost it all and then made it back, you've cycled. Like, really, like, if you failed at business and then lost it all, right, and then built something back, like you built a different business or whatever, and you're back, where you want to be, like, you've cycled. I'm like, that's cool. So it's not about being afraid of failure, because failure is there's so much learning in failure. John Maxwell has so many books on leadership, like Failing Forward. He's always talking about, failing forward and being resilient and persevere. And if you're going to fail, don't fail backwards. Fail forwards by learning what was the root cause of that failure, and then take action to not have that happen again. It's like learning from your mistakes, right? Like, okay, that sucked, that hurt. Definitely don't want to do that again. It's like putting your hand on a hot stove. Like, ooh, that sucks, that burns. Let me do it again. No, you're not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? So.
Absolutely.
I love where you say, like, don't be afraid of failure. Failure is inevitable. At some point, like, you may not fail at business for the first couple of years, but something will, right? Like, something will start falling apart. Something will. But there's so much learning in failure, but people are so afraid to fail. It's like, I don't want to lose, or I don't want to, so I'm just not going to try. Like, you already failed. Wayne Gretzky said that you take, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So you might as well, take a shot. Jim Carrey, I just watched a video. Jim Carrey is giving a commencement speech, right? And he said, well, you might fail at something that you don't love doing, so why not take a chance and fail at something that you absolutely love and are passionate about? I'm like, oh, so you might fail anyway. So why not? Like, if failure is inevitable, then just do it. Like, do whatever it is that you want to do. Do whatever it is that sets your heart on fire, because you might fail at either one. All right? So I love your perspective. Love it.
Thank you.
So moving forward, now you've done like the 21-year career as a lieutenant colonel, which is amazing. So you got the officer side, you know what I mean? And a lot of people I talk to, they're enlisted and officers, and so I've got like both sides, but is there something that you learned in the military that really set you on a path of success when you got out, like, as you retired? Was there something that you took and says, oh my gosh, I need this, and I learned it like in the military?
There are two things in the military that made a tremendous difference in the quality of my life, the quality of my service, the quality of my leadership. I decided very early that I would never do anything illegal, immoral, or unethical. I remember the case of Lieutenant Calley, tried for having gone into a village and been responsible for a lot of people being killed. And I just said, while I was willing to obey the orders of those over me, that would be the place where I'd fall on my sword. The other thing was I would often hear a question and then take care of the truth. And in my heart, I always knew that felt just wrong. I knew that I took care of soldiers and loved soldiers, that soldiers would die trying to make sure that they accomplished the mission and did the right thing. For all of the years that I was on active duty, it was amazing the kinds of men and women I worked with and the kinds of things that they did because I was willing to step up. There are a number of examples I'll never forget when women were allowed to serve in units where we served alongside combat arms. And they would have fraternity uniforms for women at the time, and I had a young soldier who had just been stellar, and when it was time for her to rotate, she couldn't fit in her normal uniform, and the colonel did not want to have her receive her RCOM in formation in civilian clothes, and it was like, that's wrong. And being the only female officer in the unit, it was like, no, she did the work. She deserves to be recognized. And so she received her RCOM, as I recall, in her civilian clothes, photographed and rotated to end a career. I think she retired as an E7. And there were any number of incidents that were both ways to personally and professionally take values that helped model so that they would have the courage to do the right thing. And I am very grateful that those values were such that even now as a civilian, being unwilling to do things illegal, immoral, unethical remains one of my...
That's awesome.
The truth is, say I'm sorry.
One of the things that I learned, early on, even when you're indoctrinated and, you're going through basic training and it's just like a recurring theme are core values.
Yes.
Like every branch, right, has core values.
Yes.
And so when I designed my business, the Success Core, speaking, training, company, all that, that was the first thing I did. That was the first thing I did was I was like, okay, what are going to be this business's core values? Are they going to be the same thing like honesty, like the Air Force's integrity, service, and excellence? I mean, what is it going to be? You know what I mean? So I just took, a couple values that I was like, this has got to be, like, it has to be integrity, it has to be honesty, right? Like you're saying, like, I can't do anything like immoral or unethical or, whatever. And I totally agree with that because ultimately you're branding, when you build this business, you're branding kind of yourself as it's an extension of yourself, right? It's an
Absolutely.
extension of yourself. And so, if there's, you hear it all the time, like this place has bad customer service, so I'm never going to go there, because it has bad customer service. It has this, it's that, it may not be, just one person, if you're at a restaurant or whatever, but when you have these bad things, I mean, it really is an extension of you. You have bad owners, you got bad, service, whatever. So the first thing I did was I sat down and was like, okay, what are my core values? What am I going to be known for? What's the legacy that I'm going to be leaving behind with this business? That was one of the things that I learned in the military.
Yes.
So I feel like with, organizations, and like you go into organization, you talk about leadership, and like what is it that you do, and talk about, Wee Little Turtle and all that. So talk to us about like that strategic leadership and principles and everything that you do inside of those organizations.
It starts with having a good understanding of who the people are. I've learned that when leaders have values that undermine, it's probably like swimming upstream to communicate what it means to be good for people, good for communities, and good for the environment. I think about the companies that left North Carolina and abandoned small towns and took jobs overseas. Some of those in Michigan and Ohio that had people pack the equipment to ship the jobs overseas. I have no interest in working in places like that with leaders who have those kind of values, because it's always money over people. I'm convinced that if you care for people, people will help how to achieve revenue goals. There is a case study of the factory, I want to say it was in Massachusetts, where it had burned down. And the owners wanted to simply take the insurance money, and the people said, if you rebuild it, we promise we will make this profitable and good for our community. And they did. And my understanding is they did better after it was rebuilt than they'd done before, because they had a vested interest in the success of the company. It meant their jobs, it meant contributions in terms of taxes to the community, and it meant that people didn't move away. All kinds of benefits.
Yeah.
So I find that if leaders are open, it is remarkable what we can do to build teams that will then conduct teamwork in a way that's good for the individual, good for the organization, good for the community, good for the environment. Right now we've got like 3,000 communities across the country that have bad water.
Yeah.
Here in North Carolina, close to me, we've got one where the water has been polluted. And I was amazed to learn that the cost of the cleanup was such that the taxpayer would bear the burden, because the governor at the time chose to settle with the corporation for a fraction of what it will cost for the actual cleanup. Some people were having to use bottled water. And when I think about organizations where the leadership is willing to make those kind of decisions and compromise behaviors that will hurt people, my decision is not to work with organizations like that. I seek organizations where people are committed to wanting to be good for people, for communities, and the environment.
That's awesome.
And to do that, we just start, tell me your goals. Together we look at the resources that are available to achieve the goals, the timeline that's in place to get the work done, the resources that are then needed, and cost. It's like any project. If you take the time to assess what you want, what you have, what you need, and what you're willing to do, it's remarkable how quickly you can achieve the goals.
Yep. Very, very true.
Also,
so how did you get
risk?
So how did you get started in all that? What was the first step? Like, how did you get started? Going into organizations and, like literally, you're advising these senior executives, right, to work towards their desired results. And So is it just years and years of experience, and is just one thing led to another, led to another? How did you get started, going into these organizations, and helping them with their leadership issues?
I got started when I left the military. I'd always worked with senior officers. In fact, one used to say, "You're like the canary for us. If you come in and tell us that the plan that we've got, that there are problems with it, your perspective, we are probably not going to do it because I just trust your values."
Right.
And it has been wonderful to have that kind of reputation. Well, when I retired from the military, I went to work in an organization where I worked with a general officer I'd worked with on active duty. And it was remarkable what we were able to do in a fairly short period of time. In fact, we were able to assess the state of preparedness across the nation in our 50 largest cities to ensure that if we had a terrorist attack, that the responders would be prepared to address whatever happened. And from that, I have just met so many people. Then I was invited to go to Iraq to help understand what Iraqi people needed so that we could stop killing them by accident and having them kill us on purpose in retaliation. It was amazing to go as a social scientist and use what I know about people and about research to be able to help the leaders and help the soldiers understand how to better interact with the people. And now, in the academy, I marvel because many of the people who are getting PhDs are mid-careerists and senior leaders and entrepreneurs in organizations. And so in addition to the research that they're doing that in many cases will make a tremendous difference in the quality of life, the culture in organizations based on their findings, and how it will be shared for practitioners, I find that there is a commitment to investing our time and effort and understanding areas where there is great need, not just research for research's sake, where the information will sit on shelves, collect dust, and never be used.
Right.
What can we understand that will help improve health care, help improve finances, help improve families, help improve organizations, personnel, finance, IT, leadership, management, R&D, marketing, sales. And it has been lovely, and customer support. It's been lovely to support leaders in how to make improvements across those areas.
There you go. Awesome. So what do you think was your best resource that you used so far in your journey?
The best resource was probably my mother. My dad died when I was in the third grade and expecting our youngest eighth child. And
Wow.
I saw my mother work 2 and 3 jobs to take care of us. And she never accepted welfare or public assistance. She just worked. And she was the kind of model, she was really organized, and she was busy teaching us how to help, how we could help her so that she could care for us. And I find today that I use that model working with especially researchers. I understand process really well. And I tell researchers, if you will listen, I will share your process that has been used with more than 80 researchers to complete their PhDs. While your situation is different and we'll have to tailor it for adjustments, if you will listen to me, you will help me to help you. And I found that has been wonderful in organizations. I've also found that it's equally important for me to listen to people in organizations who will tell me what they want so that I don't spend time on things that may be useful but not important to the client. So as a coach, I really pay attention. I've learned to listen deeply and to respond from a place that is broad enough to encompass not just what they're asking me for, but what's really needed as well. And it has made for just a great life. I did training in the county where I live, and the division that I worked with had responsibilities in all of the buildings owned by the county. And so from time to time, I would be downtown going to a building and would one of the employees. And it was always lovely to have the person say, you know, Dr. Braye, as a result of what we learned with you, I got promoted, I got to go to training, I was able to retire, I was able to use what I learned in my marriage or to help with my children, and that has always felt so good. In fact, I used to give pocket cards to the clients as reminders that they could take with them long after our work was finished. Oh, probably 3 or 4 years after the work that I had done with them. And I walked in and was surprised to see those pocket cards on a table still being used and made available to the employees. So I find that the biggest influence is to not be so concerned about hoarding and holding on to ideas, but to be willing with an open heart to share, knowing that compensation may look just having money go to the account. It may show up as investment in people's lives and in their families and in our community in ways that will help make the community and the workplace better.
Awesome. I love it. You are like on a mission, man. I just absolutely applaud you, and you just have a unique perspective. You know what I mean? Like, man, I love the way you look at things, and I love how you you put it into words and put it into motion, and you take action on it too. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So where are you headed now? What kind of new adventures? You said you were in Asheville. What kind of new adventures? You got businesses, family. What are you working on closing out 2017, and what are you looking forward to in 2018?
There are 3 things that come to mind. There's a community called the 12 Tribes, and some people have said they're a cult. But I've seen them do such wonderful things to help communities. And so my commitment is to make a contribution to that community. The other thing, some people are familiar with Eustace Conway, the mountain man who comes on television and owns Turtle Island. And in the summertime, Eustace runs a camp for families, for young boys and older boys, for young girls and older girls on some of the most beautiful land in our country. I would love to encourage more people to go, one, to become familiar with Turtle Island, and then be willing to support having young people from their communities go and participate in the camp for boys and girls. It is an experience like none other. I've volunteered there in the past, and I have it on my calendar to make time to get back that way this year. The other thing is I have a nephew, grandnephew actually, who graduated from a high school in Atlanta. And when I went to his graduation, their superintendent of schools spoke, and she was absolutely amazing. It is my commitment to ensure that best I can to support the Atlanta Public Schools and this superintendent. And she represents a best practice. I was amazed at how many students and parents seemed to just love this lady and the way that she loved them. I was amazed at what she knew about the students from each high school, how she had made sure that there was support for programs for students, even with limited budgets. It is my desire to serve as a case study for schools around our nation and to spread the word concerning what can be done to help transform education at the high school level based
Yes.
on model. So those are the three things that are really important to me going forward this year. Contribute to a community organization making a difference. Get children out of cities and into summer camps like Turtle Island.
Yes.
And then make sure that more people know the quality of the work happening in Atlanta as a result of the leadership of the Atlanta Superintendent of Schools.
You know, I have said a long time, for like a couple years now, I'm like, what is wrong with the public schools, right? Like, what are we teaching our kids, you know? It's like, because we hear all the bullying, and we hear, like, oh, this kid committed suicide because of bullying, and, you know, like the teacher, like, what are you teaching these kids? You know, I heard, you know, one of my other friends, he's like, yeah, man, he's like, my kid, like, they don't even learn cursive anymore. I'm like, how do you not learn? Like, you have to sign a payroll signature. Like the whole point of learning cursive is to sign a payroll signature. Like, you can't print a signature. Like, you have to sign documents. So sign it. And you're like, I don't know cursive. Like, what? Like, you can't sign? Like, you're killing me. And then my daughter brings home this you know, this math homework, and I'm like, oh, it's this way. She goes, no, I don't, like, I can't do it that way. I'm like, what do you mean? So she shows me, like, these math lattices or whatever, and this weird way of figuring out these problems with these boxes and lines, and I'm like, what in the, like, this is crazy. Like, we're so focused on the wrong, I feel like we're focused on the wrong things. Like, why not teach the kids, in addition to, you know, science, math, and all that stuff, but why not have, like, a relationship class? Like, some of the kids in these cities are coming from broken families, and their only reprieve from that is school. So why are we not, like, why are schools not addressing that fundamental problem where, you know, especially, like, inner cities kids and kids that, like there's, like, I, as a drill instructor in Air Force basic training, okay, I'm not sure if you've heard this before, but in basic training as a drill instructor, I had a kid from a small town in, like, Kansas or Nebraska or something. Like, his graduating class was like 20 people. Right? I mean, literally graduated high school from like 20 people, right? Like, he had such I mean, he was secluded from everything, right? I mean, he was on a ranch, you know, somewhere in farmland, you know, whatever, and he gets the basic training, and he is scared to death. And every time he walked by a certain group of people, he'd like be in, like, a fighting position. I'm like, hey, what's wrong? So we're all, like, in a group, you know. I was like, what is wrong with you? He's like, so this is the first time I've ever seen a black man in person. I'm so afraid. I'm like, what? And everybody looks at him like, what? Like, where are you from? And he's like, well, the only interaction I've ever had with black people was on TV and on the radio, and everything I've heard from my family and everything else. So all I know is that they're rappers and Chicago, you know, and Atlanta, and like all he knows is the bad stuff. Like, he's never had anything, like, he's never been exposed to that stuff. You know what I mean? Like where in his high school did they not talk about the cool things, like, you know, in Black History Month and all the, you know, and Dr. King and, like, all the, you know, Malcolm, like, all the cool things that have been done, like you know, the black community that has been in NASA forever. Like, we just heard about, you know, the women in NASA, and, like, where was this in his training, you know, in his high school career? Like, what are they teaching these kids? You know what I mean? And it just blew me. I'm like, what? Like, I've never heard this. You've never met anybody who's like, I've never, like, person to person, like, I've only seen him on TV, radio, you know, video, you know, whatever. Like, what? So he had no idea what to do, but he thought he was going to be killed. Like, they thought they were going to kill him because he was white. They thought they was going to kill him. So I partnered him with a guy. Like, I interviewed a couple of the ones that I knew were, like, pretty, like, head on shoulders. Like you're pretty, you know, straight and narrow. Like, so I talked to a couple of them, like, hey, man, show this dude like what you guys are really about. Like, show this dude. You know what I mean? So I made him bunk with and partner with another black guy, you know, who was, I mean, this guy graduated high school with honors, and this kid was, you know, he's going to change the world, you know. So I partnered with him, and all of a sudden they became best friends. Like by the end of basic training, he's like, this is like, I was not expecting this. You know what I mean? And it changed his perspective.
Yes.
And I kept thinking, I'm like, what are we teaching these kids? Where are we failing the public school systems? And, like, where are we failing? Like there's so much judgmental stuff and crap that goes on. You know what I mean? And it just, when you started mentioning schools and mentioning different things, I was like, oh, like, we have got, let's reform this. You know what I mean? Like, we need to throw a relationship class in there somewhere, a leadership class in there somewhere. Like, this needs to be, like, a subject. You know what I mean? Like, in schools, like, teaching kids how to be leaders. You know, you can't just throw them on a baseball team and go, here, learn team sports. Like, it doesn't work that way anymore. So what would you say, you know, is the main takeaway of leadership today, like for youth and people that are coming into the workforce and entrepreneurs? Like, I'd love to know your take, your perspective, and your you know, best advice to give somebody on this stuff.
I'd say start with love. There are those who say love is just too woo-woo for the workplace. And I believe that we cannot afford to have a workplace without it. We must have leaders who love people and love customers and are committed to producing products and providing services for people because we love people, not just because we will contribute to the bottom line. I marvel at the wage theft that happens in organizations where the leaders have just salaries that are so far removed from what the lowest paid person in the organization makes. It's unconscionable to me, and that's not to be critical. Right. It's an observation. When our leaders will have people on welfare working in their organizations, while they make so much money that we can put money overseas and enrich shareholders, but not all of the stakeholders. We aren't doing things that are good for the community. We aren't doing things that are good for employees. We aren't doing things that are good for customers. We produce bad food, cheap furniture, cars that with planned obsolescence. It's like no wonder there are so many people buying foreign automobiles. Yeah. My sense is when there is a love that permeates every thought and every action taken, where our commitment in the workplace and in the marketplace is sourced from this. My sense is we will have products and services and care for people that will just alter the world. Not just our city, not just our state, not just our country, but the world. And right now we have so many people who are afraid. And the way the fear shows up is not just being afraid to fail. I look at all the things we're busy accumulating. Where I live, probably a mile, 3 miles of my house, they are building 3 more huge storage places. And that means that we're busy accumulating things that we don't need to impress people who don't care, that we will not use.
That's so true.
I'm giving guidance and encouraging young people who are just getting started. It's to live a simple life. Don't accumulate a bunch of stuff that you don't need so that you don't have to worry about getting rid of it. I think about all the seniors who are busy trying to downsize, and I'm one of them. I wish I had had this guidance early on. Only, it's kind of like when you go to a buffet. Only take what you'll eat so that you don't have a plate full of food to throw away. In life, only accumulate the things that you will really need and pass on the things that you don't need. And then travel light in life. I marvel at how many of us have so much debt with stuff that we don't need.
Yep.
How wonderful it would be to be able to give from the abundance that many of us have, but that we have tied up in all kinds of stuff. So to revisit the nugget or what I think is worth sharing is to have everything that you think and do sourced from love. To not be afraid to fail. To live simply and accumulate only what you really need to do what you're called to do as your life's purpose. And I think when we travel life like that, it helps eliminate a lot of the fear, all of these security systems or all kinds of stuff that we just don't need.
I love it. Oh, my gosh. So much gold there. So much, like, because it could be physical. Like, when you talk about, like, accumulating and, like, I'm thinking of it on all areas of life, whether it be physical, like, we buy, we buy DVDs and we buy clothes and, we buy cars or whatever, or, we accumulate baggage like hurt, pain, and we don't forgive, you know what I mean? And we're carrying these past hurts, and we're carrying around, all of this anger and hatred and just like there's so much that we do accumulate throughout life, and at some point, like I love how you said you have to live with love first, like lead with love, and because love and fear can occupy the same space, love and hatred can occupy the same space, so if you want to live an abundant life, you have to show up with gratitude, like you said, you have to live your life every day with an attitude of gratitude, and just count blessings and show up with love, which you become open-minded. You know what I mean? You become open. When there's love, you know what I mean. There's a sense of open-mindedness and acceptance, which I think a lot of people fail at. Is acceptance.
Yeah.
Accepting things the way they are, and then strategically making changes.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. So this is the point of the show where we do a shameless plug. You can plug a friend, your quotes, the websites. You can plug your Facebook, your businesses, products, whatever it is that you want to plug. This is your time to shine. Shameless plug moment. Go.
Okay. I would love to be videoing this because then I could show these things. There are 3 books that I've worked on that I want to plug. The first is Service Learning. It was done about 11 years ago. I've gone to work with leaders who were college leaders with the National Association of Student Affairs Professionals, and they brought in the Student Government President and President of Science and Science Club and the Writing Club and such. And we went to visit 3 schools in the D.C. area, and the students were so changed by that service learning project that they wrote their reflections. And I edited the reflections and published a book called Service Learning, Student Reflections on Making a Difference. It was amazing to see how the young people, when they could really hear the children in these schools, were changed. Some changed their majors. Some who were political science students decided that they had a better idea of why they needed to be effective leaders. And the book is just rich with examples of how to love and be of service. The next is a book called Success Strategies for High Achievers. And it's a book that I was invited to co-author with Warren Bennis, Dr. Warren Bennis, and Brian Tracy, who's our #1 trainer in America. And it's for high achievers, people who are already on track, and it's available on Amazon, or you can go to my website and order it from me, and I'll get it to you right away. The other is Discovering Your Inner Strength. And this one was done with Ken Blanchard, the 1-Minute Manager, and Dr. Stephen Covey, who was just so open to being able to help us live lives in ways that were good for people, good for us, where we managed our time better. And discovering our inner strength allowed for just cutting-edge strategies that could be used by leaders. So they are available on Amazon, but once again, you can get them from my website. Just reach out to me at 703-864-3769. Those are the things that I want to shamelessly plug.
Perfect. So what would be, we always end the show as we wrap up, we always end it with a call to action. So what would be your call to action for somebody listening to the show? What should someone do today?
I recently heard a woman speak named Mel Robbins, and she shared a 5-second rule that if you go out on YouTube and watch her videos, you'll see one that she did with a young fellow. I think his name is Lou Knowles. In fact, let me see if I see this quickly. The beautiful thing about this 5 seconds is I now start every morning as soon as I wake up. I used to make time to write in my journal and do all kinds of things, and sometimes I would walk and sometimes I wouldn't. Well, what I have found is if I take that 5 seconds to do exactly what's on my heart, it is amazing how it has helped me achieve a number of goals that I had set that I just had for years put off taking action on. So for those of you who've been carrying unfinished requirements for your life, watch Mel Robbins, and I promise you will engage your life in a way that when 2018 ends, you will have achieved so much more, and many of those things that were your unfinished requirements.
Perfect. Love it. So,
in fact,
what's your plug your website again? What's your
thing.
Yeah. What's your website again?
My website is wuliturtle.com. Wuli Turtle. People ask me, where does that come from with you as a black woman? Wuli is a phrase, a Chinese phrase that means patterns of organic energy. Turtles are considered the oldest living creatures on Earth, those that move around, different from trees. And when I started business 17 years ago, I wanted to help individuals take the vision and dreams that they are given and convert them to reality, thus my coaching and consulting practice. And I wanted to have a business that would be in existence for the long haul, because about 95% of all the businesses that start every year fail in the first year or two. And I was determined not to be one of them. So here I am in my 17th year with Wuli Turtle. Little children love it. They don't remember the whole name, but they're like, you're that lady with that turtle business. I'm sure of years of being committed to change in the lives of others. This commitment has allowed me to be in business for many years.
Awesome. So as you wrap up and close the show, do you have any final last words for our listeners?
In this holiday season, I would invite you to get rest. So many of us are just exhausted and burnt out. Manage energy carefully, and from that space, be open to receive love and open to give love. And out of that awareness, you'll be amazed at how much better prepared you will be to start 2018.
Perfect. Well, Rubye, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. You have given so much value with, being afraid of failure and showing up with gratitude and love and all of the things that you talked about in the show. I want to thank you so much for just the amazing, truly, you are amazing. And I want to thank you for your time and contribution to the show.
Sean, thank you so much. It's been such an honor and a privilege to come and share today, and I wish you the very best through the holidays. And all of the people in your audience, may you be the stone that ripples across in your family, in your community, in the workplace, and in the marketplace, so that others are transformed as a result of your model.
Perfect. Well, like I said, thank you so much for your time and being a guest on the show.
Thank you.
So, Life Transformation Radio listeners, another amazing episode with impactful guests. If anything that Dr. Rubye Braye has said resonated with you, please connect with her. Connect with her at her website, www.wuliturtle, WuliTurtle.com. You can look her up on Facebook. She's on LinkedIn, Rubye Braye, Rubye Braye. You got to look her up. She is absolutely phenomenal. And I invite you just to connect with her. If anything on any of our shows connect with you, please look us up on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We're on TuneIn. And recently, you can find us, just got uploaded on Google Play Music. So you can look us up on the iPhone, on the Android. You can leave a review, rate us, let us know how we're doing. I'd love to read any comments about any of the shows and any of the guests that are around here. So as we close the show, I always say, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the values that you hold deep in your heart. I call that living your brand. And until next episode, have a great night.